This week is Shabbos Mevorchim Chodesh Tammuz, Shabbos before Gimel Tammuz. It's also the day of Chav Chasidim when the Rebbe came to America. And it's Parsha Shlach. What does Parsha Shlach speak about? It speaks about the story of the spies that Moshe Rabbeinu sent to scout Eretz Yisrael, and he handpicked the leaders of the Jewish people, and comes back, it seems they make a miserable failure. They come back and say that we can't conquer Eretz Yisrael, and the Jewish people are stuck in the desert for another 40 years. And with the second that they hear they're going to be stuck in the desert, all of a sudden they have a change of heart. They said, we're going to go and fight our way up to Eretz Yisrael. Some of them actually went up to fight, and Moshe Rabbeinu said, you won't be successful. You know, the Eibush is not going to help you, and they were struck down by the Goyim. There's a number of questions over here, but the point is like this. What was the mistake? Moshe Rabbeinu sent them. What's going on over here? So the Rebbe explains the whole idea of sending spies. What do you need to send spies for? The Eibush just said that Eretz Yisrael is good. You can't trust the Eibush. The Eibush wasn't able to prove himself yet. And furthermore, the Eibush told Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm not telling you to send, you know, I'm leaving it up to you. I'm leaving it up to you. If you want to send, you could send them, but there's going to be room that people can make mistakes. So why is Moshe Rabbeinu sending them? So that says there's a very fundamental point over here, that in serving the Eibush, the ultimate is not only you should have faith and do something because the Eibush tells you, but you should use out your own mind to understand what you should do, how you should do it. And that's why the spies were sent. They could have just trusted the Eibush, but the Jewish people say, we want to see for ourselves what Eretz Yisrael is like, how we're going to get into it. So ideally, this is a very smart thing. It's a very good thing. You should prepare yourself. You should use your intellect to figure out what to do, how to do. And Moshe Rabbeinu understands when the Eibush says, I'm not commanding you, it doesn't mean there's something wrong, because on the contrary, there's certain things. Judaism is not only about following commandments, it's that our own understanding should be, we should use our own intellect. We shouldn't be told ABC, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, what to do. We should follow the Eibush wants. The problem is that when the spies went, they started using their mind, but they started using their mind inappropriately. Instead of figuring out how to conquer Eretz Yisrael, they started thinking if we could conquer Eretz Yisrael, not how, but if. This is a mistake that is very common, because the Eibush wants us to use our minds. Today we're living in the I generation, when something that we feel like it, that's just the way it is. You know, it's very hard for us to accept the notion that there's a higher power. You know, particularly in this day and age, the idea that there's something higher than us makes us very uncomfortable. We like everything, you know, we want to defund even the police. That the world's worst criminals, you know, it's all about, you know, I'm a good guy, I'm my own, I don't need the police, you know, why should I have to do something because the police might hurt me? I want to do it on my own. That's a very good thing, Adrab, it's a very good point. But when you use your das, you have to know there's two things, there's the realm of faith and the realm of belief. Faith can't be proven by intellect, nor it could be disproven by intellect. You could have the world's greatest genius, and he could have all the, and you know, all the reasons why you could disprove faith doesn't make a difference, because faith is a part. Faith is not a mathematical equation. Faith is a koach in the soul. You're connected to something higher than faith. On the contrary, you could have someone that everything you could argue, you could win his argument, but he's still not going to believe. Why? Because deep inside there's something, you know, the Rebbe Rashab said about a certain individual. Even if he would have been by Kriyas Yamsuf, he wouldn't have believed it's a miracle. But it's not something you'd convince anyone. It's a koyach in your soul. It's a muscle of, it's a koyach that you have to work out. You have to flex the muscle to reveal that faith. It's not something that has anything to do with intellect. So we need to want to use our intellect. We want things to make sense to us, to be part of our experience. But faith is beyond our experience. So it's not a contradiction if you know where faith belongs and where your intellect belongs, or your own space and feelings belong. They can work in perfect harmony. The problem is when you use your intellect to try to figure out things that are beyond your capacity. The Eibush told them that they're going to conquer Eretz Yisrael. How that will exactly happen, maybe they couldn't figure out. But for that, they should have trusted the Eibush. They were sent to see what's the best route to take, give a report to the people. They should know where they're going. That's what you should use your intellect for. So this is something that every person's own avodah. It's a very powerful point. It's a story. It's a story. It happened. It didn't happen. It's a mashal, but it's a very. It brings the point home very strong that there was exact details. I saw this years ago in a book. The exact details I don't remember, but there was a wagon driver that was booked to carry, they didn't have, taxi service. He had a wagon driver. It was the middle of the winter. Someone booked him to drive him somewhere, and all of a sudden a terrible snowstorm broke out, and the trip was canceled. And he wanted, the guy that canceled the trip wanted a refund, and he went to a Rav. Whatever, I might not be saying the story right, I don't remember the details, the halachic aspect of it. The bottom line is the guy lost the money that he could have gotten. And he was very upset, it's not my fault, there's a snowstorm. So the Rav says, listen, you're right, but this is what Torah says. The guy was a very unlearned man, so he thinks, and he asks Rabbi, he says, Rabbi, wasn't the Torah given on Shavuos? He says, yeah. He says, I figured it all out. He says, Shavuos is the summer season. There's no snowstorms in the summer. So yeah, the Torah says that if there's a snow, if there's a trip that is canceled, I lose my money because we don't take snowstorms into account during season. But now it's the middle of the winter. What's the point? The point is, in our limited experience, it's very hard, it doesn't make sense to us. Same thing goes to next week's Parsha, Korach. Korach said, Korach was a very great man, and he knew that Moshe Rabbeinu was a very great man, but he thinks about the things Moshe Rabbeinu said. He says, it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, Korach says it can't be the Eibusher told it to him. He knew Moshe Rabbeinu was a great man, but he had a simple thing. It's him that made perfect was 2 + 2 = 4. If it doesn't make any sense, and I really suspect that it's not the Eibusher telling him. It's Moshe Rabbeinu making it up for his own reason, to accept it's something beyond his understanding. So this is where in life we have to know faith is faith, and using your intellect is using your intellect. If you use your intellect, if you believe in the Eibusher, you have faith, the same thing is in anything. When the Rebbe had the heart attack in Rabbi Shalom Zirkind, so I think the way the story goes, that a doctor told him that people in his condition have a 90%, have a 10%, 90% of the people, 75%. They don't make it. So the Rebbe says, in other words, they're trying to tell me 25% of the people do. In other words, if a person would be like the Miraglim, he says intellectually 75 is greater than 25, so I should give up. I should lose my hope. Being positive is not something that intellectually, statistically, 75% is a higher chance. So I should have faith that I'll be one of the 25%. It's hard for me to have bitachon. But again, it's the same thing. You have to know where faith is and where das is. So this is Moshe Rabbeinu. Ideally, it's very important to use that your das. This is also connected with Gimel Tammuz Chav Chesiv. When the Rebbe came to America, and America is known as Chatzi Kadra Tachta, right? The bottom half of the globe, which Matan Torah took place on the top hemisphere, where Eretz Yisrael, Midbar Sinai, and America is down under, so to say. So, and also in mentality, in Americans, very straightforward on one hand, they're not as shrewd as, the Europeans were. But on the other hand, Americans are, when the land of America wasn't based on, having a good life. It was a prosperous country. It wasn't, in Europe there was fights, there was isms, there was, there was a lot of idealism going on. America was, it's my own experience, nothing higher. And the idea of the Rebbe coming down to America, Chatzi Kadra Tachta, is taking Americans and American mentality and using that out in Avodas Hashem. Same thing as Gimel Tammuz. Gimel Tammuz, you don't see the Rebbe with your physical eyes, so you don't have a physical presence that mamish in a revealed way makes you aware that there's something higher. It has to come from you. And over here, we have to, we have to know that there is faith. You have to be connected to the Rebbe. You have to connect. You can't use your intellect and your all the things that are bothering you, which are very real, but they're not going to find the solutions for the problem. The solution is higher than intellect. You have to try to filter that in, internalize it. But in order to overcome the test, you have to remain high. You have to be connected to the Rebbe. But then you use your intellect to try to internalize and live with those things that are higher than you. So this is the thing. There's one more point. Is what's interesting is like this. The spies, like I mentioned before, first they said we're not going to make it. They said even the Eibusher can't. The Eibusher set up the rules of nature. His hands are tied. He won't be able to help us overcome the giants in Eretz Yisrael. Then the second, the Moshe Rabbeinu, tells them, you're going to be stuck in the desert. You're going to die in the desert. All of a sudden, they have a change of heart. They said we're ready to go. And two things over here. Well, how do they have the change of heart? And What was the idea that, and why did they fight when Moshe Rabbeinu told them not to fight? Now, the Rebbe writes in Tanya in Perek Chavtes, a very powerful point, that when Moshe Rabbeinu screamed at them, there was a moment of truth. You know, people that are atheists and they have questions and there's, you know, a lot of inner turmoil that they might be going through. At the end of the days, when there's a moment of truth, something that's deep inside of them comes out. So the Miraglim, you know, their bubble popped. Moshe Rabbeinu screamed at them. It was a moment of truth. They experienced, you know, that they were shaken and brought out their emunah. Within a second later, they were ready to go. So people, the Alter Rebbe writes is that even people that say that they don't believe, they have sveikus and emunah,
idiots in a foxhole,
they should know it's not true, because deep down, it takes a moment of truth in the person's life.
So why were they wrong?
That was one thing. But then they said, we're going to fight. What did they want to do? They wanted to make up for their sin. They first said, we won't be able to conquer Eretz Yisrael. So they said, no, we're going to go and we're going to fight now. But Moshe Rabbeinu says, no. The same exact point. It's again, the Eibusher told you not to go up now. The Eibusher says you have to remain in the desert. You have to follow the Eibusher. You want to make up for it. You want to have Mesiras Nefesh. You want to give up your life to show that you do have a emunah, but that's not what the Eibusher wants. Again, in your das, what you want to, in your mind, you want to accomplish something. But the Eibusher says, don't do it. So again, the Rogatchover says, the Nachshon ben Aminadav, right? Who was the prime example of Mesiras Nefesh? Nachshon, he was the first one to jump into the Yam Suf, right? The Rogatchover says, again, it's not clear. He understands it based on a number of opinions and sources put together, that he was one of the mapilim. He was one of the people that decided to fight their way to Eretz Yisrael. We want our Mesiras Nefesh to do that. Mesiras Nefesh is a good thing, but again, is that what the Eibusher wanted? There has to be a complete dedication to what's higher than you. You use your Mesiras Nefesh where the Eibusher wants you to use it. So this is something which only Moshe Rabbeinu represents complete truth. The
mapilim was a negative thing you're implying?
It was a negative thing. It was the opposite. It was the same miraglim, the same people that first said we can't do it. They made a 180-degree turn. They said we're going. They decided to fight, and tomorrow they went up and started fighting the way to Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu said no. They should decree you should die in the desert. What are you fighting for? But they wanted to make up for the fact that yesterday they said that we won't be able to.
So what are we supposed to do if we feel we have a drive for Mesiras Nefesh? How are we supposed to know where to direct it?
Very good. You follow Moshe Rabbeinu.
But
that's
we
the
don't
idea.
hear Moshe Rabbeinu now.
So you go to the oil, you write to Rebbe a letter. Each person has his way of Iskashas. I don't mix into people's ways, modes of Iskashas. What works for them, it doesn't work for them. But that's the idea. And again, the Nekuda is a person has his das. A person has those things he wants to do. They're very good, but there has to be. Don't use your das how to do what the Eibusher wants. Speak to him mashpiyat. You know, the Rebbe says. I saw a sikh actually today. The Rebbe says, people ask the question, everything we spoke about by bringing is good and fine, but at the end of the day, is have a nefesh Bahamas. It's not as simple as it sounds. The Rebbe says, fine, so speak to mashpiyah, speak to someone that can help you at least take baby steps. I'm adding in that word, but in other words, you need someone. We can't make this up. Anyway, that is the Nekud. And the bottom line is, the importance is we have to have bitachon, you have to have faith. The Miraglim didn't have faith. Not only that, they said our children are going to die in Eretz Yisrael, right? So it's a Chassidish word that people say, I saw the Rebbe. My children, they didn't see the Rebbe. And this is an old Chassidish word even before Gimel Tam. People said, in the times of the Alter Rebbe, if I would have seen the Alter Rebbe, I would have been a Chassid. But today, if I would have been in this generation, so he said, so what did Moshe Rabbeinu tell the Jewish people? He says, your children who you thought they're going to be totally assimilated, spiritually it means they're going to be totally eaten up by the physicality of Eretz Yisrael, assimilated. No, they're going to be the ones to fulfill the Eibusher's mission. You with all your experience by Moshe Rabbeinu, and you saw Matan Torah and Kriyas Yamsuf, and you thought you had it all. You had doubts in the Eibusher. You weren't ready to go in. But it's your children who you thought will be lost, right? The same thing we see after Gimel Tammuz. Unfortunately, things are getting more polarized. But one thing we see is people that are involved in the Rebbe's and Yanim are more dedicated to the Rebbe than ever before. On the other hand, there's people that are struggling more than ever before. That's true. But on the other hand, people that if a person is dedicated to this person, people shouldn't be afraid, what's going to be. You see that those people that are involved in the Rebbe's, you see Bachrim growing up today that are even more dedicated than people were before Gimel Tammuz. So obviously there's a flip side to it. There's a lot of, Messianic stuff that we still have. But the point is, don't think that, don't give up hope. You have to have faith. Use out your seichel how to do what the Rebbe wants from you and what to do. But at the end of the day is you have to have faith. And I always chazed the word that my Zayda said after Yimul Tammuz. There's a sikh of the Frierdiker Rebbe, famous story of Rabbi of Premishlan, who lived in Premishlan. There was a mikveh was on the mountain. And during the winter, there was steps that went up the mountain. During the winter, no one was able to go up the steps. It was full of ice. And whoever would go up would slip. And then there was a road that went around the mountain, but it was a very long route. So during the winter, everyone had to go around the mountain, take the long route to get to the mikveh. Rabbi Premishlan used to go up and down the steps. He never fell. So two guys came to town and didn't believe in Chassidish Rebbes. They thought they were a bunch of bogus, and they said that Rabbi Premishlan is just playing a trick, he has you guys all fooled, So we're going to show you can do the same thing. Anyway, they started going up the steps, and they had a good trip. They landed not safely, and they realized that there's no way you can just go up and down these steps. So they asked Rabbi Premishlan, what's your secret? So he told them like this. He says, as mitzugebunden even fällt man nicht herab unten. It says, when you're tied above, you don't fall down below. It says, Mädel, the zugebunden even fällt nicht, Mädel is tied up above, you don't fall down below. So it doesn't happen overnight, but when a person connects himself with the Rebbe, with something higher, and in a serious way, he writes to the Rebbe every once in a while. He takes it. Doesn't happen overnight, but when you connect yourself to something higher, it helps you. They shouldn't fall down lower. That even when there's things that are slippery and you have the koyach to overcome. So anyway, l'chaim, we should be reunited with the Rebbe in a revealed way now, and we should have Mashiach now and all good things, all Klal Yisrael.
Amen.